From the center of the universe, Toronto, Ontario, Canada, this is the SDM Show with your host, Rob Cairns. The SDM Show focuses on business, life, productivity, digital marketing, WordPress, and more. Sit back, relax, grab your favorite drink, and enjoy the show. Here is Rob.
Hey everybody, I'm Rob Cairns. I'm the founder, CEO, and chief digital strategist at Stunning Digital Marketing. In today's show, I have Luke Yarton with me, and Luke and I are going to talk all about micro influencers. Grab a drink, sit back, relax, enjoy the show. The SDM show is brought to you by Stunning Digital Marketing, the digital marketing concierge that helps you put all your marketing pieces together. We are your marketing experts. We are also your WordPress security experts and know how to lock down a website and protect yourself from bad actors. So contact us at Stunning Digital Marketing today, and we go. Hey everybody, Rob Cairns here. And today I've got my guest, Mr. Luke Yarton, with me. Hey Luke, how you doing today, man?
Very well, thank you, Rob. Excited to be here.
Yeah, I'm glad to have you. Now, you are in Mexico and you are coming via New Zealand, are you not, if I recall?
It's one of the very small sort of subset of the population here of New Zealanders who live in Mexico City, but so we've got a good little community of Kiwis abroad living in Mexico City. I think the WhatsApp group we have has about 8 members or 9 members now in a city of
And
21
counting.
million.
Yeah, I'm hearing more and more that even people in the States are finding there's a couple of journalists in the tech space that have gone and found other homes in Mexico. I was reading an article recently. There's a well-known Windows journalist by name of Paul Thurrott, and he's done and spending half his year in Mexico. His writers, his wife is a freelancer, and they're both down there enjoying the sun. So I kind of don't blame them. So, you know,
No, exactly. Look, like from my perspective, like I'm obviously running a business that's primarily US focused.
yep.
US visas are famously difficult to attain, so I get the benefits of the US time zone and proximity to the cities I need to fly in and out of without having to fumble my way through a US visa.
Is flying into U.S. customs so much fun in this day and age, or is it? I have to ask, or is it been
Look,
okay?
I've done it enough times where I've got my favorite airports to fly in and out of. So,
Yep,
for example, I fly a lot to New York. That's where my co-founder is based. I've
yep.
found that even obviously a direct flight's typically faster, but if I fly with a layover in Houston, Houston has an incredibly efficient
Hmm.
border
It
security. So
does.
technically, it's a little bit longer flight time, but being stuck in a JFK immigration queue can be a variable of 1.5 hours. So at least I know if I go through Houston, pass border security there, get into New York soon after, it's a
Yeah,
much more relaxed, easy way to go about my travel to the US rather than
yeah.
rolling the dice on a JFK immigration queue, for example.
The only good thing about going there from Canada is we have U.S. customs. I don't know if you know in major Canadian airports, so you're pre-cleared. So the minute
Okay.
you clear in Toronto, you're through U.S. customs. So and Montreal's the same, Ottawa's the same. I was talking to a friend of mine, and then we'll get to the topic is whose daughter was in India, and there's one city in India. There's so much traffic to US, they're pre-cleared. So they have US immigration in that city, and they just clear everybody, believe it or not, from there.
Brilliant. No, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, and it saves travel times. So today we were going to jump in and talk about ambassadors, advocacy, and all kinds of good stuff. How'd you get into this market and kind of what are you working on for your customers?
Yeah, so there's sort of two ways that I got into it. One of them, and sort of one of the key motivators, was that my family have been in retail for
Yeah.
multiple generations. So my grandfather opened a haberdashery when he got back from World War II. My father took that over. So I've sort of grown up in a small independent retail context.
Hmm.
And then separate to that, as soon as I finished college, I was lucky enough to get hired into a sort of the first non-technical hire into a really exciting New Zealand technology company. So that took me all over the world, speaking to a bunch of different e-commerce businesses or technology businesses the world over. And you sort of hear that there are these two or three sort of consistent problems people are coming across in their e-commerce businesses, whether they're in Mexico or Canada or the UK or the US or Singapore, um, around the key problems are it's really hard to attract new customers. Growing is difficult. There's been a bunch of changes in recent years that have made e-commerce
Hmm.
growth a lot more complicated. And then sort of parallel that with what do I know about technology and how to influence and change some things that are happening in the world. And then what do I know is fundamentally true from my time spent in small retail and in Auckland, New Zealand.
Yeah.
And so you triangulate around some of these ideas and end up with something that hopefully provides some value. Um, so for us, that's a robust, really, really simple but effective referral and affiliate technology set with some
Hmm.
pretty interesting features on top of that as well that I'm sure we're going to dive into a little bit more as we get into this call, Rob.
Yeah, we will. It's interesting. And the world's all gone e-com. I would tell you, I would say, as somebody who's in that space, who's watched that space, who shops that space, we all know Amazon's king, right? Kind of.
Absolutely.
We
Yeah,
have to
for
we have
now.
to admit to that for
Hmm.
now. There's some other marketplaces. Timu's been big in China lately,
Hmm.
whether you like it or not. Alibaba's still big outside of the US. Now there's some issues there with tariffs in the States, which I'm not going to turn this into a political call, but it does have a bearing on what's going on out there. Tariffs
Yep.
unfortunately matter.
Hmm.
Um, I think one thing Amazon has done really well in this space is upselling. They do a really good job of saying, okay, Rob, you bought this product and here's an ad for five other products. And I'll
Hmm.
give you a good example. And my partner in life, Liz will laugh at me. We were looking at some clothing stuff recently, ladies' clothing on Amazon, and
Hmm.
I'm getting all kinds of emails to my box looking at buy some ladies' clothing, right? So
Yep.
they do a really good job of it. Um, what are the challenges that smaller, not so well known brands, and I think that's where you guys sit, is probably here's a brand and we want to take it exponentially. So how do we navigate that, right? More so?
Hmm. Yeah, so look, we work across a range of different sizes of business. Like
Yeah.
uh the probably the average our average customer is a Shopify store that's doing somewhere between 1 million and 5 million turnover per annum. That
Yep.
tends to be the person who we can provide the best value to, um, and the person whose pain point we can pretty easily address and sort of smash it out of the park for them. So
Hmm.
that's the area that we're most familiar with, and obviously like, you've referenced Amazon here,
I have.
and
Yep.
up until now, and we'll use Amazon as an example. There's a bit of a disparity in terms of access to technology and access to insights that these bigger
Yes.
businesses have had over the smaller businesses.
Yep.
And we're what I like to think we're a part of, which is quite exciting, is this new wave of technology providers that have built something that gives you the abilities and the sort of the technical abilities that some of these bigger platforms have only exclusively had access to up until now, and you can democratize some of that more complex specialist technology to make it available for merchants of all size.
Yeah. And there's no question with that. I would agree with you. And Amazon in itself is part of that because they do
Mhm.
sell AWS services worldwide, right? So and
Exactly.
so they're like they're selling, but they're also in the provider game, and they're not the only ones. So that's what
No.
makes them a little unique, is they're playing both sides of the coin, right? So
Exactly. It puts them into an interesting sort of position of power where a lot of
yeah,
what their competitors are building are actually built on the technology that they do own also, which is
yeah,
an interesting situation.
yeah, it is. For those who don't know, it's worth clarifying that Shopify is a Canadian company, and I like to
Hmm.
highlight that they have an office in Toronto in my area, but they're actually based out of the Ottawa area. So for a long time, um, is Shopify the only brand that you work with? Sorry, hosting platform you work with, or are you kind of
Yeah, so look,
indiscriminate?
we've got two key areas of expertise that we work out of. One of
Yeah,
them is referral and affiliate, where we've built a
yeah,
platform that allows a merchant, a business, to reward any customer for referring a friend, family, or follower with real cash reward. So that's a Venmo payment, an ACH transaction, or a PayPal transaction for effecting a successful referral. That is mainly Shopify focused for now, just because there are a bunch of sort of compliance issues. So if you can integrate deeply into that Shopify space, it makes sure that
Yep.
you're getting the full picture that you need throughout that entire process. Our second key piece of technology is one where we identify influencers or micro influencers or creators, whatever you want to call them, who've made a purchase using at a store or a service. Or anywhere really. So we'll look at a an email customer list and say of this list of 50,000 people, for example, here's 1,500 people who have shopped with you who have more than 3,000 followers, and here are all the platforms that they're currently active on. That is
Yep.
not as Shopify specific. So we've got SaaS apps that exist on the Apple App Store. We've got e-commerce businesses. We've got ticketing platforms. We've got
Okay.
neobanks. We've got a broad range there. So, I suppose to speak to your original question, the benefit of us as a growing business to want to be close to Shopify is that they've built this nice little walled garden,
Yeah.
sometimes for better, sometimes for worse. But it standardized and growing within that space is easy. So you can have one single application that can be applied to every single store. Once you start wanting to build bespoke for non-Shopify platforms, the engineering time and the integration time creeps up quite aggressively. But the drawbacks are
Yep.
because it's Shopify's walled garden, if they want to make a change to their rules or their regulations or some of the conditions of working with them, it can have a pretty large impact on your business inside their app store.
Yep. Yep. That makes sense. You touched on micro influencers and sort of going through the list and seeing how many people. What is the best social platform to get traffic out of a micro influencer these days?
Yeah,
It
so
used to be Twitter back in the day. I'm just curious what it is now.
yeah, so it really depends.
Okay.
And I think
Yeah.
I'll go a roundabout way to answer this question
Sure.
from you here, Rob. Where the correct answer is the best platform to get sort of traction from a micro influencer is wherever they have pull, right? So
Yeah.
there's been an important shift in the last couple of years, where the level of trust people have for influencers is starting to decline. And
It
the same
is.
can be said for every form of media, where traditional media, like the television we watch, is trust there is falling. Trust in bigger influencers with more than 1 million followers is falling dramatically. But
Mhm.
where the trust still remains high is for these smaller um, influencer groups that tend to be a little bit more niche and tend to have a smaller, more intact kind of follower group. And often these people are part-timers, and I think that's what adds to the authenticity of it all, is that
Yeah.
the people who follow them realize that they're not being paid off the back of it, and they feel like they've got a closer relationship to these
Mhm.
micro influencers and nano influencers. So they're more willing to put more weight on what they have to say about a specific, highly sort of focused area of whatever they post about. Obviously, the king of that sort of castle is still going to be a referral from a friend or family is going to carry the most weight, but these
Yep.
nano influencers and
Agree.
micro influencers that have a area of expertise tend to be pretty well respected and well trusted still.
Yeah, I would think so to some degree. And by the way, I think your answer is gold, whatever platform they have influence on. And
Hmm.
it's also what most people understand in marketing. It's like, where do they have influence? And then where is your customer base sitting? That's the
Yep,
other important thing, which we all know.
exactly.
So I'm not a big fan of let's splurge 10 platforms because I can throw it into a
No,
scheduling software and be done with it. We
yeah,
all know that doesn't work. So if
yeah.
my cus so I like to draw a parallel and say if my customer base is 50 to 60, if that's my age group, and male,
Hmm. Hmm.
I'm probably going to throw that at a different platform than if it was 20 to 30 and female, right? Like that's
Exactly.
no
Yeah.
question.
And look, I've got some interesting sort of stories to share on this topic as
Sure, go
well.
ahead.
Obviously, from our referral and affiliate platform experience, I like to jump on calls and meet with anyone who's having a meaningful impact on a business. So for that, we sort of put the minimum as have they generated more than 5 transactions for one of the brands that are using our technology, because that tends to be a pretty good amount of referral
Yeah,
traction.
it does.
Um, and what we're seeing now is that there's a bunch of these examples of I'll pick up the phone expecting to be speaking to some Instagram influencer and ask them how they managed to generate their referral transactions and how they're earning their cash through referrals. And more recently, it's these private Facebook groups. For
Yep.
example, there's one a young mother in Sarasota, Florida. There's a Sarasota mums Facebook group. She's but was buying some organic diapers from one of the merchants we use from, threw it in the group with a really strong recommendation, and she's made 15, 20 referrals, and that's pretty consistent time and time again. People keep going back and using her link. Um, and as a brand, you would never think, how do I pick up an influencer that lives within these influential closed Facebook groups? When in reality,
Mhm.
the right approach now is anyone who wants to be an influencer should be able to be an influencer. I'm going to make sure that they're
Yep.
rewarded in kind and let them go about business however they see fit. And another great example is I was speaking to one the other day. This guy's done probably $50,000 worth of transactions for one of the brands we work with. It's a carry-on like suitcase brand for airplanes. Asked him,
Okay.
how is it that you're sharing the link? Where are you getting these referrals coming from? And he's a military vet in the US, lives up in Chicago. Um, and he posted his link in this private WhatsApp thread for vets in his area, and he spoke about how this particular carry-on bag allowed you to had like a sort of zip out suit bag, so whenever he's traveling with his uniform,
Yeah.
it stays in great condition and doesn't get crinkled up. And he again, this is another one of those examples of there is no right platform to be targeting. It's wherever you have influence, wherever you have an engaged audience who trust
Hmm.
being there in a way that's authentic and genuine and in line with the way the community likes to be talked to, then that's the winning strategy in 2025.
Well, I so agree with that. And I've even seen cases and been, by the way, and been involved in cases where sometimes the conversation that's going on social is happening. And then I've had myself PR companies reach out to me over the years and say, can we
Hmm.
send you even product? Like, because
Hmm.
not in your case, it's referral based on money, but I've seen also micro influencers be paid in product too. I've seen that happen
Exactly.
as well. I've got, I won't mention it, but I've got what brand it is, but I've got a number of running shoes over there from a major running shoe manufacturer that came because I was having a discussion and all the brand asked for was an unboxing video, and I ended up with like $1,000 in men's and lady product, and that was like really hard to take. So there's different ways to cover that off too, right?
And there you go, Chris. Sorry, Rob Cairns, the big athleisure wear
No,
influencer.
no, but I mean, sometimes numbers matter, but sometimes they don't matter. It's a case of being in the right community, right? And that's part of it.
Exactly.
Is there more of a focus on the micro influencers or the big mega influencers these days? So like I would think more on the micros, wouldn't you?
Yeah, so we're seeing that the best bang for your buck and the best return on investment is at that lower end of the scale.
Yep.
They're
Yep.
significantly easier to work with,
Yeah.
and it's very unlikely that you're going to come across a micro influencer that's going to ask for cash up front for a post, for example. It's more likely, if they do, it's going to be a small amount of money. And they're more likely to go out and sort of be willing to work with a brand that they're passionate about
Yep.
for very sort of little agreements or sort of contracts in place. And but that does come with its own complications, where wrangling 50 small influencers is sometimes challenging, and dealing with these people and the expectations, there's a little bit more going on. And I think there's also an interesting parallel around what is the type of media people like to consume now, and it's less
Yeah.
polished, it's more organic, it's more authentic.
Yep.
Where,
Yep.
and if we were to rewind back the clock 5 years, for example, the type of media people like to consume was much more polished.
Yes.
And to be confident you were going to get polished content from these sort of long tail influencers, we like to call them, is a harder guarantee. Um, but now brands care a little bit less about the message, but more about who is saying it. So they're happy to give away some of the control, some of the way that the brand is being talked about, knowing that they just want to have authentic conversations about their brands from people who have a following and are listening to what the people have to say, which is where these micro influencers and nano influencers they really do well.
Yep.
And I think the other key aspect is that a lot of these influencer discussions are no longer done by the branding department. It's more of a performance marketing function of the business where you want them to actually generate transactions. You want attributable sales coming back to these folks. Um,
Mhm.
and I've been in a position where I can see how an influencer with 2 million followers performs versus how the average micro influencer or nano influencer. And when we say micro influencer, we're talking between sort of 3,000 and 20,000 on average. And then the
Yep.
next stage above that is 20,000 to 50,000. And consistently, these long tail, the smaller influencers will outperform these massive influencers. So obviously, you'll get a lot of reach from working with a really big influencer with a big following. Um, but people are very unlikely to actually make a transaction based on their recommendation.
Yeah.
Whereas, yeah.
I love the comment where you talk about unpolished content because I think that's really key. What people want to see now is they don't want to turn on the internet and see what we saw on TVs for years. Here's a
Hmm.
Coke commercial, and I'm going to pick on Coke, but I insert
Yeah.
brand name here, and it's all this polished stuff, and they look pretty. Don't get me wrong.
Hmm.
I can't tell you the last five commercials I watched on TV. And I don't watch a lot of TV unless it's live sports anyway.
Hmm.
And I can't tell you the last five commercials I watched. I tune them out. I'm a bad marketer that way. You
Yeah.
folks don't kill me. But I
Yeah.
just can't tell you. But I can tell you what people are recommending. And I think unpolished content, taking a phone no words of lie, and I don't care if it's pushing a brand or your business or anything else, sits very well and just shooting 90 seconds, which basically just under 90 will qualify as a short video on Instagram or YouTube, and filming that short and just going with it. I
Hmm.
think that's more important than shooting a 2 minute polished commercial, to be honest with you.
Yeah. Look, I think in a world where trust is being eroded in so many different ways,
Yep.
shapes, and forms, people look for content that they feel like they can trust, that feels authentic. Um, and look, there are some exceptions to this, but I think generally speaking, by making something look like it's got a really high production budget, it feels more scripted, it feels less off the cuff and authentic, and people want to, even from the influencers they follow, they want to be spoken to as if they're friends, and if it's purely just something coming straight off the top of their head rather than something that's scripted and planned and uh,
Yeah.
potentially branded content.
Yeah, I agree with it. Um, Types of products work really well with micro influencers because I think you probably have a semblance of that by now. And
Hmm.
what really doesn't work, if anything? So let's go with the what doesn't work well first. I'll start
Yeah,
there.
so I think one of the key, there's a couple of key ingredients here, right?
Yeah.
And I think one of them is obviously like social currency. And by that I mean, is it the type of product that people are naturally going to talk about? Um, if it's not something people naturally talk about, then it's probably not going to perform particularly well. Um, so, like an example of something that hasn't worked particularly well is we tried to partner with a brand that does feminine hygiene products,
Oh
and
yeah, that's not going. No.
people people aren't. That's not a conversation you have with your friends, and that's not a space that a micro influencer typically
And
wants
that's
to
not a
occupy. And
conversation. the ladies are
Yeah.
going to have. It's just not happening. No, no.
Exactly.
I get
And
it.
then
Yeah.
another key ingredient you have to look at is going to be like, what is the decision-making process like to purchase this, and how frequently do I purchase it? So
Yeah.
where we've found it works really well is for that sort of one-off purchase that's in that $80 to $150 sort of area where the thoughts and feedback of an expert in the space is going to be a pretty good recommendation and likely to move the needle. But because it's in
Mhm.
that 80 to $150 mark, I'm not going to aggressively over research it myself, and I'm willing to outsource a lot of that due diligence to someone else.
Yeah.
Um, so that's where things like these a carry-on bag for an airplane.
Yeah.
It's something that I don't want to overinvest my research. I'm happy to trust someone who's a one of these sort of luggage micro influencers.
Yeah.
And I don't want to spend hours and hours researching. I'm happy to say, look, that looks good. The content makes sense. I trust this guy. I'm gonna trust his recommendation.
Yeah. I agree with you. I would say, it's funny. We're saying products that don't work, and I'm thinking of products that do work. And I have a partner who's Italian.
Mhm.
She's fashion conscious, and I can
Mhm.
guarantee you with ladies, anything fashion conscious works on the internet pretty well. Like,
Exactly. Well, so we've found
I,
this really interesting, unique sort of learning f from the fashion space specifically,
yep,
where
yeah,
if it comes specifically to like boutique style fashion,
oh
referral
yeah,
doesn't actually work particularly well. In that, so with the micro influencer stuff, it can work well, but when it gets down to the sort of the more granular peer-to-peer um, type of referral, people like to be praised for putting a nice outfit together, but they don't actually really want their friends to be shopping at the same store they're shopping at, particularly if it's sort of
of
a
course
smaller
not.
boutique, because they
Because
don't want to.
they want to buy something unique that stands out. So when
Exactly.
they walk into that wedding, they're the only one wearing that dress. I get it.
They have this big
I've
anxiety and fear about being matchy matchy with their friends, and they kind of want it to be a well kept secret. I think well, once you get into the influencer tiers, then it's a little bit less protected, and
yeah,
they're more happy to
yeah,
sort of share broadly.
yeah, yeah.
But there's
And
a funny sort of yeah.
I would add to it too, and interesting enough in ladies' fashion, the one thing that works really well, and I know I'm gonna make some people red here, and you and I read, believe it or not, is the lingerie game with influencers. That works really well
Hmm.
because the ladies go nuts, and the
Yeah.
stuff that they share. And I've worked with a couple of those brands in Canada. The stuff that gets shared you wouldn't share with your best friend sitting out across from you, but the photos that go up online, I won't even go there, right? It's,
I
it's
trust
just
you on this one,
interesting.
Rob.
Yeah, I'm no comment. I've already dug the hole, so
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
there's other things that do well too, like offices stuff do well. Tech
Hmm.
stuff can do well
For
depending on
sure.
who it is. I mean,
Exactly.
I, I think services like financial services and stuff like that I don't think works as well as people think, in my opinion,
For
but I
sure.
could be wrong.
Ex well, I think obviously at the top of the call we discussed some of the big Chinese commerce platforms. Um,
Yep.
and there's a really interesting e-commerce platform that we've based some of what we've built around, which is a platform called Pinduoduo. And what
Oh,
they
yes.
do is gamified group shopping. So the more people
Mhm.
you shop with, the lower the price you get.
Yep.
So there's an element of that where that can apply to referral and affiliate as well, where the idea is you can get this uh, influencer or micro influencer to be leading a group shopping experience where they're the one who can unlock. So I guess what I'm trying to get at here, and I'll elaborate more as we go, but giving them the tool to unlock a lower price on something you buy frequently, it can go a long way to changing someone's behavior. So let's look at an example. Like say I'm buying a product that's effectively homogeneous. So
Yep.
let's use protein powder for an example, where a protein powder from store X and a protein powder from store Y are effectively the exact same protein powder.
With a
So
different
one
label
of
on it. Yep.
different label, but in terms of the benefit or the outcome I achieve from consuming it, much of a
Yep.
muchness. I'm not really going to know the difference. So if I can get someone who can sort of lead this group shopping experience through a discount or through some other mechanic, that's also an area where referral and sort of influencer or creator-led marketing can actually have a huge impact. So that's why a lot of these stores that have high lifetime customer values with repeat purchases work really hard to use social mechanics to pull people across. So these
Of
sort of
course.
really lucrative discounts or free items or gift with purchase or
Uh,
is there a range of different levers they can pull? And we help a lot of brands with that specific problem, which is what you're doing is the exact same as what this purchasing behavior
yeah.
already exists. How do we
Yeah.
get that purchasing behavior from this store over here and across to your store over here?
Yeah. One of the things we're talking about Chinese marketplaces we're mentioning like Temu is a good
Hmm.
example. The gamification game they play is you haven't bought in a while, here's a wheel and we'll give you two products as a discount. But by the way, you guys spent $40 anyway. So, your two products for $2, you still gotta spend $38 to get those two products, right? So they
Exactly.
play that gamification game and people say,
Hmm.
I'm getting such a great deal. Well, when you math it out, is it really like they get caught in
Yeah.
that whole let's play the game? And they're not the only one. I
Hmm.
mean, you know, that play that game. And gamification is a big part of e-commerce sales. I think where it becomes a problem is when the customer figures out what the gamification game is. So
Hmm.
I have a couple companies I deal with quite regular. One's a floral company. And if I leave my stuff in my cart for 24 hours, they'll give me a 20% discount every
Hmm.
time. So you know what I do when I go to order? I
Yep.
plan it a day before I want to do my order and I leave my stuff in my cart for 24 hours.
Yeah,
Like, come
look,
on, guys.
there's
Like,
there's an aspect of like training the wrong behavior there as well,
yes,
where you
yes.
sort of they're
Yeah.
they're actually reducing their conversion rate by adding this gamification because customers will learn it. But like we've got a few fun little sort of gamifications that we can add to our technology as well that seems to be
Okay.
responded to well. So, for example, with one of the brands we're working with, the amount of commission that the creators or any folks referring earn will
Mhm.
increase unlocks depending on how many people they've referred. So uh,
Okay.
0 through 10 referrals will get you 20% commission, and it works up to a 40% commission once you get beyond
That's
100
awesome.
referrals. So it allows someone who, once they get beyond that certain high point, to be really,
Yeah.
really effective and at that point, they've unlocked such a high commission that they would be stupid to go and promote like a competitor's product because they're going to be getting nowhere near as much commission revenue compared to
Yeah.
what they've managed to work up to and unlock here.
Yeah. What's your typical payout to a micro influencer? So say you achieve ABC commissions is probably, I would think, 60 days in most cases, or is
So
it less than that?
the approach we've taken is we want to make the payout as soon as possible. So
Okay.
most of the people we're working with, because we're the way we've built our product is we want everyone, regardless of whether they have a high follower count or not, to be able to refer friends, family, and followers and get meaningful cash
Yeah.
rewards for doing so. So what we've found is by making that time to pay out as short as possible. For some brands, it's only 7 days, as short
Okay.
as possible. We want as soon as possible for that person to get a magic experience. We want that magic moment,
Yeah.
which is I've just seen money hit my bank account. Um,
Yep.
and look, for the majority of people we work with, they're probably only making 20 to $50 a month. And for them,
Uh,
that's a free bottle of wine on a Friday night for having done
I
very
agree.
little work. Um,
I agree.
we've had people on the platform that have made more than $80,000 using our technology. So there are people who use it a lot more aggressively, and for them, it's a full-time job.
Yeah.
But for the average person, we just want to make it as clean and as simple and as stress-free as possible. Um, so that any person, regardless of whether they're a fully fledged influencer or someone who's just decided to throw a link into a Facebook chat in Sarasota, Florida for mums, they feel like they're confident that they're doing the right thing and they understand how it works. And if they are rewarded, they know why it's happened and how to get that cash out and be able to treat themselves to whatever they want to treat themselves to.
Yep. I love that way of looking at it. You can do it to get my weekend date night out, or you can do it to make a living, right? So that's
Exactly,
what's really
exactly.
cool about this. Um, is there any charge for micro influencers to use the platform?
No, so it's free for the people using it on the back end. We want to make it as accessible as possible, and even for
Yep.
the brands, we've taken sort of a slightly different approach to existing referral and affiliate technologies, where typically it's a pretty heavy upfront fee and then a small commission on the back end. Where we've said, look, we don't want to get paid anything if we're not making any transactions for you. We want to
Good
build
idea.
our platform in a way that's performance based. So we're only getting paid if we're generating transactions for you. Um,
Yep.
and so it's just ours is really simple. It's 1% commission on any referral transaction we're party to.
Yep.
And brands seem to resonate well with that. They like that approach.
Is that regardless if the brand's bringing in 1 million in sales or 10 million in sales? It's the same 1%.
Exactly, 1%.
Yeah. That's really good. So the big thing is you're not looking at a pricing page saying, geez, if I'm do this much in business, I pay this. If I do this, I pay this. If
Yep.
I do this, I do this. Here it is. One stop shop and
Hmm.
away you go.
Exactly. There's no gotchas to get you. Um,
Okay.
And look,
Good.
we did run into some issues at the beginning of the process trying to push that approach where, particularly in Shopify, the bigger brands we've got some brands that are doing sort of 40, $50 million turnover per year. They have
Wow.
this big anxiety that they're going to be caught up in a support queue where they have an issue behind some brand that's doing
Hmm.
$50 a month, and they're saying, I want to, they like the idea of paying this big fat upfront monthly fee to ensure that they're going to get
For
priority
support.
service. But that's where you need to sit down with them and say, hey, look, we guarantee that we'll pick up your phone call within 15 minutes. A lot of them, they even have my own private WhatsApp number, which I'm sure is going to catch up to me one day.
Yeah.
But the idea is, hey, look, we do care about you as a business. We recognize you're bigger, even though you're not paying more money. We recognize you and we realize you're important to our business, and give them our word that they'll get the treatment that they deserve.
Look, you say it's going to catch up to you, but what I would argue is you're providing personal service that many companies don't provide, and that in the end, that's your marketing strategy. It makes you stand out, my friend. So I
Exactly.
don't think from yeah, you're going to get a few spammers when the number get, but you know what? We all deal with that crap. I don't even want to talk
Exactly.
about it. It's like I've got for my business, I've got a VoIP number that's on my website.
Hmm.
So if you're calling me and you don't know me, you get the VoIP number, and that's kind of the only reason that's there is to weed out the spammers and the SEO people and the people I don't want to talk to, and
Sure.
that's there. And then all my big clients all have my private cell phone, and they can get me,
Yep.
and they know if I'm away on vacation, send me a text if they need something in a hurry. If there's an emergency, they know how to get a hold of you. They'll figure it out. So I would
Yep.
say what you're doing is, and kudos to you, is you're making yourself stand out by making yourself saying you're a big client. Here, you can get me. Don't worry
Hmm.
about that.
Yep.
And
No, I think it's
you should be commended for that. Like really, that's hard.
well, I think it sort of also comes back to that sort of common thread that we've had throughout this conversation around sort of trust and authenticity.
Yeah, yeah,
And so I'm
of
willing to
course.
stand by my work and stand by the platform that we've built. So I'm available for you when
I
you need me.
I can't say I love your attitude because it resonates with me so much. So, kudos to you guys. Um, you say you're in Mexico to do business in the US. Do you do any
Mhm.
business in Europe, or have you stayed away with that because of the EU and the privacy laws and all of that stuff?
Yeah, so for us, it's a lot easier just to be based in the US. It's
Yep.
that approach when you're starting a new business, and we're still very much in growth phase.
Okay.
The pie is the biggest in the US. We want the businesses to look
Agreed.
like each other as much as possible. Obviously, when you jump over to Europe or other places in the world, there are additional considerations around GDPR concerns, for example.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah,
and
we were
and
just
looks
talking about that. Yeah.
For us particularly as well, obviously a key part of our platform is transferring funds from a
Mhm.
merchant, e-commerce merchant, to an individual or a creator that's represented them. So that comes with some KYC and KYB considerations and some tax obligations, and
Yeah.
we're happy with the complexity that we've arrived at the moment, and we're not in a rush to pour any additional complexity in just yet.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I'll tell you, Shopify's very good that's your primary e-commerce platform. They're very good at that. And even
Exactly.
though they're in Canada, there's not much of a difference between the way funds and payment services work in Canada and the US. So I'm
Hmm.
not surprised it's working really well. And then you get into some of these Asian companies like India, and you and I both know India is a disaster with payment processors. You can't use this one, you can use this one, you can't
Yeah,
do. You know where I'm going, right? So
exactly.
it's just crazy. North America, despite all the political upheaval going on here, is still pretty stable that way for now.
For
So
sure.
that's a good
For
thing.
sure.
Does any of that, I don't want to really turn this into a political show, but I'm going to ask the question. Does any of the political upheaval impact how you guys are doing business, or do you just kind of ignore it and keep on going?
Look, obviously, as I've mentioned, so our success, we sort of live and die by our merchants being
Yeah.
able to make transactions. Um,
Yep. Of
and
course.
so we get a very transparent look at the number of transactions that are coming through on a platform. And you'll notice that when there's some uh, sort of difficulty predicting what the future might look like, you can see the number of transactions might drop slightly. You can also see that when there's sort of some complexity and difficulty around ordering goods in, perhaps like tariffs might impact someone's ability to make a big purchase order to stock their store. So there'll be
Yep.
more items out of stock, which means less transactions coming through.
Yep.
So look, we're across that. We understand the impacts this can have on the brands we work with. But we're still early enough in our growth trajectory, and we're still getting businesses on board that we haven't reached a point where anything that tends to be happening over there is going to cause a massive impact on our growth trajectory. We're just trying to sign
Yep.
up new businesses and delight more merchants and keep moving in that direction.
And keep providing great service because, again, I think that's what's separating you from competition. A lot of people in tech
Hmm.
think, oh, let's just take our service, let's dump it all in the Philippines or India and wash our hands of it. And I truly think in the tech side of it, that's a big mistake. Like I think too many companies are doing that. And
Hmm.
I just went through a service problem with this platform that we're using today. And I got to tell you, when I did the survey at the end of it, my service score was god awful. I figured it out, but
Yep.
because they outsource their service and they don't treat that as the cost of doing business or the cost of keeping long-term customers. And
Yep.
I think you guys are going about it the right way, to be honest with you. I think
I'm glad you
it should
think
be
that.
commended. Yeah.
Thank you, Rob.
Um, you're welcome. Is anyone find about you, the platform, your company? What's the best website and places to go?
Yeah, look, you can check us out at therave.co, therave.co is our website. Otherwise, you can find me on LinkedIn, Luke Yarton, Yarnton. Always happy to chat. Don't be a stranger. Feel free to jump into my LinkedIn DMs and set up some time.
No. And Luke, as always, thanks for joining me. I really enjoyed this conversation. It's a different look on the whole influencer and what to do and a whole look on the business. And thanks for sharing your expertise. Much appreciated.
Look, I've had so much fun on this, Rob. This has been a nice, engaging, flowing conversation, which is always enjoyable.
Yeah, thank you, sir. Have a great day.
And you.
This podcast has been brought to you by Stunning Digital Marketing, your digital marketing concierge to help the business owner put all his pieces together, whether it's email marketing, WordPress security, WordPress design and development, PPC, and more. Text Stunning Digital Marketing for all your digital marketing needs today. Very special thank you to Luke for joining me on this edition of the SDM show. The SDM show is dedicated to my late father, Bruce Cairns. Dad, I miss you very much every day. My mother, Ann Cairns, who's still doing really well and is an inspiration. And of course, Tiz Maroney. And Tiz, I know I've said it, but thank you so much for all the inspiration you give me every day.